everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talking Marijuana. Thanks for tuning in. Here we like to just sit around in our beautiful living room here with our great backdrop, the curtains that look out onto beautiful downtown Burbank. And we talk marijuana. We talk legislation. We talk legalization. We talk about stupid stoner tricks because we know those exist and we don't want to hide from them. We talk about medical marijuana. We just like to talk about marijuana and we like to get information out to you. And we are your hosts. My name is Barry Kramer. I am the operator of California Patients Alliance, a GLACA accredited dispensary here in Los Angeles on Melrose. Come and visit us.
Hi, and my name is Yamileth Bolanos, and I'm with Purelife Wellness Center, which is also a fully accredited GLACA dispensary. And I'm also the president of the Greater Los Angeles Collectives Alliance, setting the standard for medical marijuana in Los Angeles since 2006. And with us is...
Well, hello, it's Duncan, and I'm the California Director of Americans for Safe Access, joining you guys from Sacramento, California.
Good to see you, Dan.
All right.
Or hear you, anyway.
And I'm Dan Gabriel, comedian and marijuana enthusiast.
We love you, Dan.
We love you.
Thanks.
We
I
love your
you guys.
enthusiasm.
Yay.
And
today, I sit here and go, yay.
Yay. Whenever you hear yay, it's Dan. Oh, yeah,
Very
you guys can see
enthusiastic.
we're in this great new world of technology. You can actually see Dan go, yay. And we have a couple of wonderful guests with us today. We have Candace Hawes, who's the founder of the Orange County Normal Chapter, and real excited to hear about how you came to be that. And we also have Cynthia Johnson, who's a community leader of Normal Women's Alliance. Community leader of Normal Women's Alliance. And we're super happy to have you here today, too.
Very coming,
Going to get
both of
into
you.
some good discussion with them a little later on. But I think first, maybe Don, remote from Sacramento, we would love to hear about maybe a legislative update. What's going on around the country and here in California?
Well, sure. It's very late in the legislative cycle, and as is usual, things start to happen very quickly at the end of the session. So, two quick updates for folks regarding what's happening in California. One is a bill by our President Pro Tem of our Senate, Darrell Steinberg. The bill number is SB 439. And this is a bill that up until yesterday would have simply standardized the laws about what's legal for providing medical cannabis around the state of California. It's based on some old 2008 guidelines from our Attorney General. And those guidelines have been governing in liberal parts of the state, but they don't have the force of law. And so this bill will make those guidelines the law all over California. And that's really important in and of its own right because lawmakers and police officers and patients and local governments have been asking the state legislature, what in the world is going on? What is legal in California when it comes to medical cannabis? So the bill will do that. A new provision, I think, is going to be more controversial. We just found out last night that the author amended the bill to add in a provision that would seek to sort of rein in the doctors that people perceive as too lenient on medical cannabis. And we definitely hear this a lot. It's definitely a real phenomenon where people have the perception that a doctor will write a medical cannabis recommendation for any condition just so long as the person will pay. And so what this bill says, it's a limited approach. It says that the medical board, which is charged with overseeing doctors in California already, has to prioritize a situation where a doctor is writing excessive recommendations without doing a physical exam and without having a medical justification to do it. So it's not a terrible measure, but it definitely takes us down a path towards attacking doctors. That makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So I'm not sure yet, frankly, what's up with this amendment on SB 439. If this is a good or a bad thing.
Does our state legislature have that power over the medical board to dictate what they will then have to do in the future?
They do, actually. The state legislature has already charged the medical board. There's existing law that says that the medical board has to make it a priority to enforce and to investigate and enforce against doctors whose conduct puts people at danger. And that includes doctors who excessively prescribe opiate medicines without a physical recommendation or a legitimate medical need. And so they're just tacking on to that opium mandate now the recommending of medical cannabis. So it's not outside the current regulatory structure. And I guess the good thing is this might help to reassure some people who are ambivalent or even opposed to medical cannabis that at least there's a mechanism in place for enforcing laws about recommending. On the downside, this will be a misdemeanor. Doctors who don't uphold that standard will be guilty of a misdemeanor. And as you know, in California, you can go to jail for a misdemeanor. And we certainly
Really?
don't want to see doctors go to jail.
Oh, well,
So
this.
a little bit of a mixed bag on this thing. I'm not sure really where the dust is going to settle yet.
Do you think that this measure will stop the doctors from writing recommendations at the conventions? Long lines of people, young, healthy people, they don't get examined. That's the kind of thing that they're going after with this legislation?
I think this legislation could do that, and that's exactly what they're going after, these sort of perceptions. I think in the industry we say the doc-in-a-box doctors.
Right.
Who just, are perceived as writing a recommendation for any, all comers. Everybody comes, everybody's improved. I think that's exactly at whom this is aimed. Whether or not this stops that behavior, I guess, depends on how much of a priority the medical board, which is frankly understaffed and underfunded. And I guess there's a question of how much the medical board can really focus on this. As a standalone provision, I don't think the bill's much of a concern.
It doesn't. You don't think this provision puts the bill in any danger of passing?
I'm not passing.
Of not passing.
This amendment will increase the chances that the bill is passed, because I know a lot of our lawmakers are hearing back from lobbyists for law enforcement and even some concerned community members that doctors are too lenient when it comes to medical marijuana.
Well, I think if we're being honest,
Politics is a positive thing.
Yeah, I think if we're honest.
How it plays out in the real world.
I think if we're honest about the situation, Don, we have to say that, there are too many recommendations being written by doctors right now, and the medical board has done a fairly non-existent job of reining that in, and they seem to be the body that needs to rein it in. The legislature doesn't seem to have any control over the doctors direct. They kind of have to move through the medical board, and it would be nice, because the doctors, as an operator of a dispensary, the doctors are the gatekeepers. I, as an operator of a dispensary, don't have the right to say, "Oh, your recommendation isn't valid. You're a healthy young guy," or whatever. And I'm a firm believer that we have a lot of misperceptions of what a medical marijuana patient may look like. They don't always look like they're on death's bed. They may look very healthy, and so it's not up to lay people to do that. It's up to the doctors, and the doctors, as the gatekeepers, have really kind of fallen down on that job. And although I don't ever want to see anybody go to jail over marijuana charges for any reason, the doctors do need to sort of take some responsibility in this, and especially
The
You're
doc.
right in the big picture that doctors are being too lenient. Although, just to play devil's advocate, everything these doctors are doing in the trailers at the hemp festivals is legal. Our state law does say any condition for which medical cannabis provides relief. And this bill wouldn't necessarily prohibit that activity so long as they're also doing a physical exam before giving the recommendation.
Right.
And there's a medical justification, and I guess by implication that bona fide medical justification, and not a form that was filled out with the diagnosis in advance and just stamped by the doctors.
Right.
So that's coming up. That's actually going to be that's one amendment. I actually expect more. So there's going to be, I think, a little bit of a poker game or even a tennis match, if you will, regarding this bill as it moves forward into next week.
I've always liked
Keep your
that.
eyes on it.
I've always liked that wording in the legislation that says, in our legislation here in California, that says it's good for cancer, AIDS, for all the things that we know medical marijuana works for, but also for any other ailment that cannabis might be useful for, because it's such a harmless medicine and difficult, if not impossible, to overdose with. It works for so many indications that a patient might have simply from upset stomach. And I know everybody kind of laughs at things like that when we go, "Oh, I'm a medical marijuana patient. Why? Because I have upset stomach, and it helps." Well, that's a quality of life issue. I don't need to walk around with acid stomach all day, and I don't need to take Maalox and other kinds of, prescriptive. Maalox isn't prescriptive, but heavy prescriptive medicines that are eating the inside of my body up. I can take this marijuana, and it should be available to patients for not life-threatening diseases. It is a quality of life medicine, and I hope as we move forward with legislation that subtlety can work into the law, although I don't have a lot of hope for subtleties in the law.
Maybe a 50-50 situation of a compromise provision that actually stirs up as much controversy as it puts to rest.
Yeah.
So time will tell. But this is why we have to be very vigilant during the legislative cycle when we have bills on the table, because this came up last night. The committee hearing, the deadline to comment on the committee hearing is tomorrow.
Wow.
And this thing will get its first vote next week. So,
And you're in Sacramento, so you will be commenting on that?
I am still debating back and forth with the coalition partners and Americans for Safe Access about what stance we want to take. There's also a sort of a poker game that happens when you approve or disapprove of amendments.
Right.
We don't want to alienate the author, but we also don't want to just line up behind it just because. So we're looking at it, and I would encourage folks to go online, check out the bill, go to the State Assembly website and read up on SB 439 and see what you think, because obviously this isn't being broadcast live, so this may all be done.
Done, right.
People hear this podcast, but these things come up all the time, and so being sort of light on your feet is important.
Okay.
So that's going on in California. Is there anything else going on around the country that?
There's one more in California I'll mention just
On
because we're going to
Monday.
see this all over the country, and that's the e-cigarette.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The e-cigarette bill. This is a bill called 648, SB 648, by Senator Corbett, who is a supporter of medical cannabis, but takes a more middle-of-the-road approach. This bill actually bans using e-cigarettes. These kinds of like electronic cigarettes you're seeing now in public places.
Right.
They would be banned in any place that tobacco is not allowed. And of course, this was originally a public safety measure to keep people basically from smoking at all. Like you can't have a cigarette, you also can't have an e-cigarette.
Right.
Regardless of what we think of that as public policy, there are actually two provisions of this bill that make it problematic for medical cannabis patients. And one is that the definition of smoke or smoking in this bill includes the phrase or any other weed or plant. So it doesn't just apply to smoking tobacco through an e-cigarette. And that really raises an eyebrow for me, because why in the world would they make a reference to, quote, any other weed or plant? Unless it was not cannabis. The other thing that really worries me is that this bill so broadly defines an e-cigarette that an ordinary vaporizer could be considered, your little tabletop vaporizer that you might have at home,
Right.
could be considered an e-cigarette. And so if the bill passed in its current form, that would mean that vaporizers wouldn't be allowed in, say, vapor lounges, patients collectives and cooperatives, or at bars, or even at hospitals.
Or in your home, right?
Where these right now.
In your
This
home.
would not apply to your home,
Okay.
unless your landlord specifically said, or some other authority figure said you can't have it. You can still do it in your home, but vaporizers are a great choice for using medical cannabis.
Well, and sometimes the only choice for a medical marijuana patient, because smoking is too heavy and they can't smoke, and so to be able to get that kind of medication into your system by inhalation of vapor, where you're not burning, you're not getting any carcinogens in your system, you're just vaporizing the active ingredient, the THC, the CBDs, and other cannabinoids. We really need that for patients.
Is there a secondhand vaping problem?
Only when I don't get it. Second time.
Teary-eyed mothers saying, "Secondhand vape is killing my children."
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like that's. I can't smell it when somebody's smoking one of those e-cigarettes 5 feet away from me. It's
Yeah.
Unless
I
it's-
think this is
I would imagine
this
this.
problem.
I would imagine the cigarette lobby has something to say about that as well. Because Marlboro and all those guys do it.
I looked at the vote on this, and do you know who's just lining up behind this thing in droves?
Who?
Democrats. Democrats are
Democrats?
lining up behind this bill. They as an anti-smoking measure. So politics makes odd bedfellows, doesn't it?
I know some national news that happened this week. I'm very excited for me personally. Is Illinois came on as our 20th medical marijuana state. I'm a native of Illinois. I'm born and raised in Chicago, so super happy about Illinois coming on for that. And it really makes me. I can go visit my family again. So that was some really great news. 20 states now
Wow,
on
since
board
we
for
finished
medical
Chicago.
marijuana. The tide is
Turning.
keep on going.
We have to take a break in a minute.
Yeah, we're going to go to a break in about a minute here. And the other good news nationally, I thought, was through Nevada, who is going to allow for reciprocal medical marijuana patients to reciprocal use of your medical marijuana
recognize
recommendation.
out-of-state recommendations.
Yes.
Which
in
makes sense.
Vegas.
It's Nevada. They're pretty much a tourist place. But if you're in one of those 20 states and you have a medical marijuana recommendation and you go to Vegas or anywhere in Nevada for a vacation, you will be able to reciprocally use your medical marijuana.
So recommendations that don't happen in Vegas, stay in Vegas.
We're going to come back on the other end of this break, and we're going to start talking to our guests here. So happy to have you here, and let's take a break now, and we'll return later on Talking Marijuana.
Smoke if you got 'em.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FYI. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick.
Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi everybody, Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Talking Marijuana here with Barry and Yami and Dan and our guests Candace and Cynthia. Nice to have you. And Don, you're joining us from Sacramento.
Don, I'm heading
Live
out to
from
Sacramento.
Phoenix, Sacramento. I'm
Yes.
Scenic Sacramento. What are you looking at right now? You're looking at the inside of a hotel room.
here. The wall in my office.
The wall in your office.
Beautiful.
So I'm heading to Sacramento tomorrow to join you to push a transplant discrimination bill, the latter part of this week. But you want to tell us about what's going on Monday? Because I'm going to be part of that too. And maybe there's people out there might want to join us.
A lot of folks are coming. We're going to have about 100 people in Sacramento on Monday for a Citizen Lobby Day, the California Summer Lobby Day. We're going to be supporting good legislation, trying to push back on bad amendments. We're going to start off at the Citizen Hotel with some training and some briefing, a couple of speeches, and then we'll just head to the Capitol. We're going to make appointments for every single person who attends to go see their lawmaker. So they're going to go and see their representative in the assembly and stand up for medical cannabis.
That's
Things like this
fantastic.
make a big impact. So if you've never done a thing like that, look for it in your state capital because it really helps a lot. California Summer Lobby Day.
Yeah, if you're hearing that from our vodcast here and you want to be part of it, you can go to where, Don? What's the website?
AmericansForSafeAccess.org. That's FOR, AmericansForSafeAccess.org, and just search California Summer Lobby Day. It'll take you right there.
Yeah, be a part
Get
of it.
involved. It's very empowering.
It is. You feel 10 feet tall when you do one of these days. You know, we've helped good legislation move forward before. We've stopped bad legislation, and we may need to do it again this year. So if you're in California, get out to Sacramento Monday, August 12th.
It's very empowering to look your lawmaker straight in the eye and grab him by the collar and try to strangle him a little.
Nothing more empowering than that. Let's talk with our guests today. Candace Hawes, you're the founder of the Orange County Normal Chapter. Being a founder sounds like it has some sort of a story behind it. So what got you in that position?
I know the story. Can I say it real quick?
Yeah.
Synopsis of it, she got busted for weed 10 years ago, and she got pissed off, and she started the chapter in Orange County. Now it's the kick-ass chapter of the country.
Yeah.
That's the story.
Yeah, well, thank you. Pretty much, I just felt like the laws were wrong, and instead of breaking the laws, I wanted to change them. So I just reached out, tried to see who else in Orange County was interested in reforming marijuana laws, and I was just amazed at the response. I was just 21 years old. I was a college student, didn't know much. And my first members that came to the first meeting was a philosophy professor from Cal State Fullerton, a small business owner, a physician, So there was people that wanted to get stuff
Real
done.
diverse,
So
too,
it was just amazing, all the people that want to get involved. And I think that's why we've lasted 10 years is because people really want to get something done. And we have a really good active group in Orange County. It's surprising because a lot of people think of Orange County as super conservative.
It's Republican.
The Republican safe haven of, all of the state. But, you know, it's amazing, all the active people that have just risen up, and we have a really strong, great group out there.
Is there a specific target you're working on now, or projects that you have going that you want to?
Yeah, well, right now, the medical marijuana patients, and the situation there is really bad.
They've closed down.
There's
many of
only
the
one city that
dispensaries.
allows medical marijuana collectives, that's Laguna Woods, and they don't currently have a location. They have some collectives and some delivery services, but otherwise, there's a couple that have stayed in the city of Santa Ana, but that city is actively harassing those collectives and even getting the DEA involved. They recently passed ordinance in the city of Anaheim banning any kind of delivery service from even delivering in the city of Anaheim. So things are really bad. So I think right now we're trying to focus on the cities. We have one voter initiative qualified in Santa Ana to try to repeal their ban and replace it with the system of registration. We had a couple others in the works, but I think that they haven't really gone anywhere lately. But I think that's going to be our focus coming up on the election season, is to try to turn that situation around, because right now there's hardly nowhere for people to get medical marijuana. It's going to go totally all underground. And once they get rid of all the storefronts, they go for all the deliveries, and then they start harassing the patients. You know, so we have to put an end to this.
Yeah, we hope they never start harassing patients ever again in California or anywhere where it's legal to be a medical marijuana patient.
Yeah.
There should be no harassment of patients. I understand they're still trying to get their shit together on how this is going to work legally, but patients are the innocent victims in this.
Yeah.
They need to have that medicine. As much as people think it's a bullshit thing and it's only 18-year-olds that are going in to get their medicine, even if there is a number of 18-year-olds that get through and are abusing the system, there's abuse in every system in our culture. That doesn't mean that the patients who really need this medicine shouldn't be able to get their medicine legally.
And that's who's being affected. You know,
Absolutely.
it's not affecting the 18-year-olds. They can get it.
Anywhere.
They're affecting the 60-year-olds, the
never
working
knew how to
men
get it
who
or-
don't have
right,
any other
absolutely.
friends. They're hurting really the people
Safe
that need it the
access.
most.
The people in Laguna Woods, I mean, they're all retired, right? They're in their 70s, 80s, 90s
Yeah,
years
55
of age.
and above at least. Yeah.
So
And really, they're just messing up traffic, because all of those people have to drive north now to Los Angeles. They could
They'll go to
probably
Las
clear up
Vegas.
some congestion. Yeah, they're going to Las Vegas.
They're going to end up having to go that far. I mean, we're having problems in LA and everywhere, you know. It's
One of the articles I read this week was about how marijuana use is much more favored, and medical marijuana is much more favored amongst liberals than conservatives. And
That doesn't make
It was a
sense to
Gallup poll,
me.
but it doesn't make sense to me at all. But if you look at a poll that, you know, I think liberals are just more...
They're more outspoken.
They're more
about it.
outspoken and they're more
But
honest
it
about what their
fits
use is.
perfectly with the conservative mindset, because it's all about small government. It's
States'
all about
rights.
get out of my
Yeah.
It's keep your nose out of my
Absolutely.
business.
Yes,
And
exactly.
it should fit along those lines perfectly.
And you
but-
have Dana Rohrbacher is down
Yeah.
in Orange County, and he happens to be
Yeah.
an incredible conservative, but he happens to be very good on the issue of marijuana
And then we
medical
have
marijuana.
Correa, who's a Democrat, who's totally against medical marijuana and had the horrible DUI bills that he's tried to pass a
Yeah,
couple
those are
years in a row.
horrible
So it's
DUI
really an
bills.
odd place in Orange County, what we have going.
Right. It's not just what people think, just the seat of conservatism.
Yeah.
Conservatism. I need some medicine so I can say that correctly.
What's interesting, because when you're sick, you know, using cannabis as medicine crosses every line. You know, age line, politician line. It doesn't matter if you're sick and you need it, and it's the only thing that works for you. It shouldn't, you know, you should be able to get it. I mean, it's a law in the state, and it's terrible what's happening in Orange County. It's terrible that they've closed down so many, you know, places where patients are getting their medicines.
We are seeing, as dispensary operators up here in the city of Los Angeles, I am definitely seeing an increased
Patients from Orange County.
from
Yes.
Orange County, from the surrounding areas of Los Angeles. So it would be great Don, if California could get a set of regulations that we all have to abide by, law enforcement and patients alike. And if we could get those regulations, how much simpler and easier I think life would be for people. Here's what you follow. If you're not following it, then you're, you know, going against the rules, like in any part of our culture.
It can even help.
That is so right.
It can even help people in court trials as well. I know Joe Grumbine, he went to trial and he wasn't allowed to use the Attorney General guidelines as part of their their evidence.
Defense.
So now if it became law, it could assist
Yeah,
people.
we're going to have Joe
like
on.
this
We've
as
had him
well.
on as a guest. We're going to have him on again to talk about his continuing case and how he's
That was
doing.
a crazy
but-
case.
Yeah, that was a crazy case.
Well, he's
Ongoing.
going back to court on Monday, so it's ongoing. He's still living his hell.
They're just seeing how much money they can
They can
waste,
rip out of 'em.
racking up that dollar.
Our other guest today is Cynthia Johnson, the community leader of Normal Women's Alliance. And I'd like to know a little bit about that organization. Are you related to the Normal chapters around our country, or do you come out of the same
I
organization?
think, yeah, we came out of the same plant, as it were.
Nicely put.
And Normal was founded in 1970 to change public opinion so that we could end prohibition. And in, I think it was 2010, Normal Women's Alliance was founded. And our mission is to reach beyond the cannabis community to women who can see that prohibition is much more dangerous to their family and their community than cannabis consumption. But women have been voting for legalization at lower rates than they normally vote for progressive issues. So we're trying to reach those women who probably will be on our side as soon as we can kind of break through the reefer madness
Right.
bullshit that they've
Right.
been consuming all this time.
Yeah.
It always seems to be our problem that we have all this mythology to overcome in cannabis culture. There's so much bad information that's gone for many, many decades that now to overcome that, the educational process is really one of the foundations of what our community needs to do. We need to educate people so that they know what they're voting on when these votes come up.
And that it's okay.
And that it's okay.
Like you were saying, conservatives are less likely to come out of the medicine cabinet, as it were, and claim to be for it or even to consume it. But they're there, and we're trying to reach them.
Yeah. Well, that's a noble effort.
Well, I think it's a great effort. I think it's great that Candace is a woman and she heads the chapter in Orange County, and that, of course, the Normal Women's Alliance. Women are making changes in this society of cannabis use. I think that we are the ones that are pushing it forward, and a lot stronger than even men at this point, because men. I mean, I guess I don't want to say that you guys don't represent well, but I do want to say that women.
It's why clubs have ladies' night. If you get the women on board, the men will follow.
Exactly.
Well, there's that, yeah.
So I think it's a really good thing. You were given a prize this year, right, for being the best.
Yeah, we
OC
got an
chapter.
Outstanding Chapter of the Year award from National Normal. And then last year, also, I was the High Times Freedom Fighter of the month in November. And I was named one of the most interesting people in Orange County by the Orange County Register, too.
It's fantastic.
And you are.
Nice.
It's
'cause
great
you
to
are
have
one of the
a
interesting
real
people.
vocal advocate on our side, someone who represents well, and again is all about the education, letting people know why prohibition is so bad for this country.
And it affects everybody in everybody's life, and it raises taxes. Everyone has a reason to end prohibition. Everyone does, even if they don't use cannabis.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what I try to tell people.
And from LA, we go down to the OC Normal meetings
Yeah.
because they're the best in the country, and we want to see how it's done.
What makes the OC County
makes
meetings
those
so
meetings
good?
feel so good, yeah.
You're winning awards. What are you doing down there? You got
We
to
just
be.
have a really
You
great
have,
group of people, and I think everyone is fun to be
acrobatics.
around, so we like to get together in big
So
groups and do things.
What kind of activities do you put together then? So maybe people are out there listening might get
we can
interested and get
Yeah.
involved.
Well, we have 2 meetings. We have one South County in Lake Forest, and we have one in Fullerton for North County, so people don't have to drive far. And we also have rallies. We had 2 rallies this year to support HR 1523, which is a federal bill that respects states' rights to medical marijuana. We did 2 rallies for that. The last one was just at the U.S. Surf Open. So the Surf Open has about 500,000 people there. So we had the chance for people from all over the country to see our message, and we gave them flyers how to
that's
contact
fantastic.
their own state representative.
Were you there for the riot?
We were not. If we would have, hopefully things wouldn't have
There was
gone
a
like
riot?
that.
There
Chilled
was a
them out or
riot in Huntington
something.
Beach after the surf.
Sunday
Really?
night.
Sunday
Was
night
it a
after.
Sharknado?
I'd say I couldn't watch that movie. And I was heavily medicated, and I still couldn't watch that movie. Well, I'm glad you weren't caught up in a Sharknado or the violence that went on afterwards. That crazy.
I'm
thing.
sure that wherever the riot was, it was on the complete opposite side of wherever the normal.
And it was fueled by alcohol, not marijuana.
Yeah, exactly.
Always
It was
fueled by
alcohol fueled.
Really, I mean, come on.
Whenever have you
let's
seen
get
a
real
pot
about
riot?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
When you run out.
We need to go to break there.
We're going to take a little break, and we'll be back and talk a little bit more with our guests, and we'll see you after the break.
Okay.
Cool.
So, Okay.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FY. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi, everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
We are back with Talking Marijuana, and our guests, Candace Hawes of the Orange County Normal Chapter and Cynthia Johnson of the Normal Women's Alliance. And Cynthia, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what the Women's Alliance is doing? I know you said in a general way you're really getting education out there and trying to boost the national knowledge in our women here in America about the benefits to the family, to lifestyles. What specifically are you getting into?
We're operating on a couple of levels. Every first Friday we go to Venice Beach and we set up on the beach with a table and information about Normal, and some of our coalition partners like Moms for Marijuana were with us the other day.
Oh, great.
And we always try to partner up with other organizations to broaden our base of support.
It's a great idea.
Because in fact, we represent the majority. And we do want to remind our legislators that they should do that also. And along those lines, what we first did last year was we decided to do an education project because we spent a year in court with Joe Grumbine and Joe Byron watching these guys get railroaded for running a legally compliant dispensary.
Yeah.
And so we decided that judges have so much power over our lives, but how many times have you walked into the polls and had no idea who these
pick
people
one
were?
of
People know the
And what
least
they
about
were
that.
about. People know the least, including me. And I said, I am never going in that ballot box again without knowing what these judges are all about. So we did send a questionnaire to all the judicial candidates in LA County, and we heard back from them. And we published a voter's guide, a Superior Court voter's guide for LA County, and we were able to engage in dialogue with
that's
want-to-be judges, not so much sitting judges who told us, we don't have to
Nothing to
care.
lose.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm
We're
sure
gonna-
that
I'm here.
a
I'm
retention
here.
election is a given, you know.
But some of them were willing to engage with us and talk about the laws and how they should be changed and so forth. So that was our first project.
That's a great project.
That was a
because
great-
really attacking, I mean, we need to get a handle on judicial nominations and who, because that's where all of our patients are going to wind up.
Yeah.
If they're caught up in this crazy triangle of things, and they're going to come before these judges, and we don't know much about them.
Yeah.
And what happens when you're in front of a judge, and I tell you, it's worse than the worst whitewater raft trip. I mean, you're sitting there bored, it's dingy and dark and dirty, and you're waiting for, nothing is happening, and then suddenly it starts, and your life just goes, it's taken away from you because the judge can sit there and say, I'm not going to allow an affirmative defense, meaning you cannot mention marijuana, medical marijuana. You can't say you were running a dispensary. You can't
In a state trial.
mention the word state law. You can't say state law. I mean, Judge Sheldon went ballistic.
Right, all of that is expected in federal court because
Not
in
in
federal
state.
court
Not
you're
in
not
state
allowed to
court.
say those.
You can't
anything.
get it either.
It's illegal federally, but here in California you should be allowed all of these things, an affirmative defense and so on and so
But it
forth.
wasn't allowed with Joe Grumbine. That's the
With
whole
many of them, and
bottom
Yeah,
line
some
of
of
It
it.
was like
things they
30
do is
court
they take away your options.
appearances at $10,000 to $15,000 to the taxpayers for every appearance. Every court date costs you, the taxpayer, $10,000 to $15,000 for the judge to say, "Come back next week."
There was
I mean,
no less than, I think, 6 bailiffs at all times inside his
They were
court.
afraid that the medical marijuana patients were going to attack the judge.
Yeah, it was in a
Because we're so
distress.
violent.
Yes.
Actually, you know, I was sitting right behind the bailiffs at one time, and they were saying they had extra bailiffs coming in to watch our case because they're saying, "This is really interesting. This isn't the normal gangbangers. This is what, you know,
This is a
like,
real
so this is
person."
a real thing going on." And so they would come to watch us, and they got to respect us because we were well-dressed, well-behaved, polite, friendly at all times, tried to keep our mouths shut in court. It's not always easy.
It's not easy.
But anyway,
But
so
you change the paradigm then. These people come to court and they're not expecting the rabble rousers. They all of a sudden are there with
ladies in big hats, just like
Absolutely.
prohibition. So that's one of the things that we've done, and
Yeah.
then we partner up with every other organization we can, ASA, Americans for Safe Access, all the other normal chapters, national
They helped
normal.
us out with GLACA when we were doing Measure D as well.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the organizations that exist, and they're so disparate and spread out through our community, our cannabis community. But I'm a big believer that they really need to work as close in partnership as they possibly can. I would say that 90% of what all the organizations want is common ground, and then there might be that 10% where there's disagreement sometimes between the legalization and medical community, sometimes what you were just pointing out as well. And so even though we have those disagreements, we're so close on so much, and we have so much more power when we speak as a
pull
cohesive unit and many people coming together to speak with that one voice. So I applaud Normal and the Normal Women's Alliance for always trying to add, partner with someone. I think that's the way to do it.
Rah rah,
Thank you.
ladies. Yay.
That's more fun too.
Friendships and partners in cannabis reform.
Yeah. I can't get better than
Yeah.
that. That's a good recipe. That's a great recipe.
Recipe for success.
We were talking about a little bit, you just mentioned prohibition, and another article that I read this week was in Colorado. There's a district attorney who has come up with, he was citing 12 cases where marijuana was criminal. Let me get to that because I was pretty amazed by that article. But this guy was citing these 12 marijuana-related deaths. Now,
Caused by marijuana.
An argument that is often made when we compare, let's say, marijuana to alcohol or prescriptive medicines is that marijuana, you can't really point to marijuana deaths. You have alcohol-related deaths in car crashes. It's always happening. Alcohol-related deaths in many other ways, beatings and other kinds of things. But marijuana, you really don't hear that very little.
You might hear it involved in like the person was drinking and
smoking marijuana, right?
And
but
then they'll demonize the marijuana.
They'll
Yeah.
demonize
It's
the
like,
marijuana.
the guy was drunk.
And it
But
could have
to,
been
like,
30 days ago that he smoked
Right.
marijuana.
But
It's still
to
in
live
the
in the
system.
real world,
Yeah.
we have very few, negligible, I would almost say, although no death should be considered negligible. I don't mean it in that.
Well, you could drink
respect.
yourself to death in one sitting, but you can't smoke yourself to death
That's
in
smoking
one
pot,
sitting.
exactly.
I tried.
So very often that point is brought up. No marijuana deaths. No marijuana deaths. No marijuana never caused deaths. Okay, so this
Okay.
district
guy from
attorney,
Colorado says
he says 12 deaths.
Okay.
And he points to that. I think in the article it points maybe over a 2 to 3 year period that he's got 12 deaths, and that's not put up alongside of how many deaths, alcohol-related deaths or prescription medicine-related deaths.
Even
and
after-
there's
Read
read the
During
12,
same
read the
time-
12.
During the same time of the 12 marijuana deaths, there was 464 alcohol-related
There you
deaths.
go. So,
So it was ridiculous
yeah.
that he even brought it up.
So
Yeah.
to dissect this again, one of the comments in the article went through each of the 12 cases and pointed out that no, these deaths are not related to marijuana. What these deaths are related to, 11 of the 12, directly is the prohibition of marijuana. The prohibition has caused, there's no reason for people to go rob people for marijuana if marijuana is legal and
you can
accessible
grow it
to
on your
adults
porch.
and absolutely. And if there's a regulatory system put in for marijuana like there is for so many other things like alcohol and for prescriptive drugs, if there's a regulatory system, then that is going to help bring down whatever numbers are going up. I'm getting cross currents here with people. So
What are you guys saying?
all right, so
Can you read the 12? I'm dying to hear 'em.
Yeah.
What are
there-
the?
well,
You
okay.
keep talking about them, and I'm.
let me tell you about the one death that would be marijuana related.
If
that,
anything.
if anything was marijuana related, and really. It's a tragic accident. A gentleman came home. He was sitting with his young child. He wanted to put that child to sleep. He was smoking, he says at the time. He was very tired, and when he fell asleep on top of his baby.
Oh,
and
God.
the baby suffocated and passed away. A horrible tragedy.
That's.
But if you can,
that guy being a dumbass.
The guy's
That's
a
not
dumbass.
weed's fault. That's.
And also,
tired.
That's- what are you
a regular
doing,
parent working a
dude?
14-hour shift comes home and is tired could do that themselves. A person who's under the influence of alcohol could do this as well.
Yeah.
This
Oh,
is
yeah.
a tragedy.
Somebody who was really
This is a
tired.
tragedy.
Not at all.
When you're looking at it in the broad spectrum of how is marijuana dangerous to our society, that is not a case to cite to say that marijuana causes death. That is stupidity.
What a terrible way to exploit
That's
a tragedy.
terrible
Yeah.
parenting
Terrible.
and stupidity,
Absolutely.
and the
Well, I
fact that
think-
anybody can have a baby.
And all of
There's
These
no
lawmakers are becoming
test
so
you gotta
desperate
pass.
that they want to use such stupid examples,
Right.
Yeah.
to show that marijuana is bad. It's
Yeah.
just ridiculous.
And that would have happened whether or not pot was legal or illegal.
Yes.
Absolutely.
correct.
Absolutely,
That-
it would have. Absolutely, it would have. And the other 11 related marijuana deaths were all due to burglaries or a robbery of a grow.
This is
That's
just
how
somebody
they
trying to
worked.
bring Colorado's new system down.
Well, I found again in reading in preparing for the show and reading articles around the country, in many of the newer states that come on board, and we'll say Colorado isn't new medically, but it's new legally. The media, and I just read this concerning Illinois as well. Illinois has just passed legal medical marijuana, and many of the articles are still. We've had this here in California, but it's kind of outdated. It was back in 2007 when all the misinformation would come out, or the slightly skewed with the myths and misstatements that have always existed about marijuana seeping into these articles, and they're there to sort of continue the anti-marijuana push in the media. So it's important for advocates and activists to get the correct education out. It's important for organizations like NORML and the Normal Women's Alliance to get that information and education out because the anti-groups are just using old, easily discredited talking points.
And there's some new talking points now that are really mind-blowing. The other day at Venice, this young man came up and he said to me, okay, what's the one reason you want to legalize marijuana? And I said, no one belongs in jail for a plant. He said, okay. I said, but there's one more that you need to hear. I said, and I know how this is going to sound, but research is beginning to show that cancer cures cannabis. He went, oh, yeah.
Cannabis cures cancer.
Cannabis cures cancer.
Oh, it also cures cannabis. Cancer
They
cures
cure each other.
And, well, it's a hard thing to say. I mean, I couldn't even get it out right this time. Anyway, he did a double take. And I said, that's right, you heard me right. Cannabis cures cancer. The research is going on in Israel. And he was just about to turn away. He says, I'm Israeli.
Oh my God.
And I went, thank you, Hebrew University, Dr. Machulam, check it out. Just Google it. And I know it sounds heretical. You can't go around saying cancer cures cancer.
Cannabis
Cannabis
cures.
cures
It's a hard
You can't
one.
say that.
So
you
you
literally cannot say that.
That's not true.
I wanted to, Cynthia.
But anyway, the point is there is so much new information and
Well,
facts.
we have a lot of anecdotal information, certainly, that cannabis helps in the treatment of cancer. And as a dispensary operator, I have patients that have bought a specific concentrate from us, the Rick Simpson oil. I encourage everyone to go online and Google Rick Simpson oil and find out, again, anecdotally, how this has really been helping people's lives. This is a critical concentration of THC and given in certain specific doses. Again, online you can find out about this. But we have a patient whose brain tumor was around the size of a tangerine, and in the strict use of the Rick Simpson oil has gone down to the size of a marble, and the doctors are amazed. They're keeping watch on it. I'm seeing it happen right before my eyes, how this medicine can really help people, not only in the quality of life, which I believe it's the most ethical kind of medicine to use for quality of life issues, but for life issues like cancer and other pressing, really intense
But then
diseases.
there's not even the research that there should be being done on it because it's
not
an
allowed.
illegal plant. It's so stupid. Pull your head out of your asses, America.
So we're going to pull our head out of our asses. We're going to take a little break here, and we'll be back on the other side. Peace.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FYI. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi, everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
And we are back with Talking Marijuana and Cannabis Cures Cannabis.
It does.
We're back with Talking Marijuana. Some other things going on around the country this week was there was a guy a couple of years ago on 420 celebrating with his friends. His name was Daniel Chung, if I'm not mistaken. And he got arrested. He got arrested by the DEA, and he was put in a holding cell for 5 days and pretty much left on his own. Never seen again, never given food. You can fill in some of the horrible things that happened.
What did he get arrested for?
He was, I believe, at some house where there was a raid.
Right.
And so he was just like there, wrong place, wrong time, stuck him in a cell, totally forgot about the kid for 5 days. He started drinking his own urine. He started trying to eat his glasses.
He cut himself and used his blood to write the message because he had
His
no
mom.
way of
It was his
he had no
goodbye
way of
letter.
saying
He
goodbye
He was
or
completely
anything.
delirious, thought he was going to die, and then all the DEA they eventually found him, and they just forgot.
And they forgot him. They apologized, of course, profusely
What
to him.
about the
He
other
was in
people
kidney,
that they
failure.
arrested at that party? What
I know
happened?
they didn't forget about them.
Yeah,
apparently.
how did
Do you know a little bit about that, Don?
No, I'm just wondering why weren't they like, hey, where's our buddy?
Yeah, why wasn't there people in the cells?
Well, I
next
remember
to
this.
him?
I remember the story when it broke a couple years ago. I don't remember all the details about why other people didn't get rounded up like him. It possibly was because he didn't have someone to come and get him out right away or whatever had happened. But the good part of this story is that this week it just was determined that he was in the right, and he was awarded $4 million summary on that. Against the DEA, and let's hope that A never happens again, and let's also hope it teaches the DEA a lesson. They're so good at learning their lessons.
So you and I, the taxpayers, paid that $4 million.
Yeah, that $4 million comes from us.
The DEA fucked up, and we had to pay $4 million.
That's just some of the money that they confiscate from the dispensaries, maybe. That's probably all the San Diego money.
They're not putting that money back into the system. That's
Oh, sure they are. They're going back in the system and chasing after me.
Yeah, they're buying better vests with it. They're keeping it within their own.
That was an incredible story. But thank goodness for this guy.
Got fired over that. Someone had to have responsibility. I checked all the stories when it broke, and no one said anything about that.
Yeah.
Well, I find that in most cases, politicians, people that hold office and have the backing of the authority of the United States behind them rarely are accountable for any of their actions. That's just off the top of my head. I don't have any proof or anything, but to me it seems like those people always get away and continue to have jobs and continue to be brought onto television shows and to talk to experts, and it's pretty annoying to me.
And I was just reading about a border town where the cops keep pulling people over for nothing.
In Texas?
In Texas.
And
then
don't even go there.
No, that is the town. There's so many.
But they'll tell them, look, there's a way that you can just pay your fine right now to me. And that's like
straight up corruption. And those
It's-
people are never held accountable. The only time I've ever heard anybody accountable, we have a guest on a couple of times now. Her name is Diane Waddles Goldstein, and one of her pet projects is to put a spotlight on police that are basically probing vaginally and anally women on the side of the road without any constitutional right to do that. And I read again a story about that this week.
Without even changing gloves.
Yeah.
Without changing gloves. And I don't even want to go into other details.
They don't do that on the road.
They do that.
Yeah, but they
do
not
do it on the
supposed
road.
to.
They're not
They've done
supposed to.
More
But
than once.
From what I've heard, and just to bring it back to what we were talking about, the accountability, there have been 2 people fired. The 2 officers that took part in this one particular incident that took place were fired. And well, they should be. I mean, putting on a badge, getting elected to office does not give you immunity to the laws.
Exactly.
If we have to follow laws, and we certainly try as hard as we can to follow all the laws that are put on the books for us, and there's many, then the government and people that are elected officials and officers of the law, they need to apply. They need to live by the laws as well. And when they don't, they need to be put in jail as the criminals they are.
And here's a tip to anybody out there who gets pulled over. It looks like you're going to be cavity searched. Look like you want it to happen. Act like you're into it, and that's been the plan all along.
I go out.
Back into it.
I go out on drives trying to get cavity.
Finally, when he's putting on the glove, go, oh yeah! Sorry if I just blew my level. There was a phone app thing we wanted to talk about too, right?
Normal helped develop a new phone app. It's available right now only on the iPhone. It's called Check Plus Balance, and it's totally free. And it's kind of aimed at helping the new smoking populations in Washington and Colorado be able to test their reaction times, their sobriety, so they can feel comfortable driving. So maybe everybody at home.
Is it for cannabis specifically?
It was made for cannabis intended, but also would work for alcohol. It's called Check Plus Balance. and it's free.
No,
and
it's
like a
do you pretend to
2-minute.
drive?
I don't have an iPhone myself, so I haven't had the chance, and it just got released. But it's a 2-minute test to test your reaction time, your ability to, respond to things. That pop up
Hand-eye
and stuff.
coordination. That's
We're gonna do a test run of check plus, what's it called?
Check plus balance.
Check plus
right.
balance. We're
My
gonna do a test
phone is
run.
really
and
slow.
yeah, Don, you too. We're gonna do this test run.
No, my phone is too slow. It doesn't go that fast.
You gotta stop feeding it the marijuana. Everything's moved slower on marijuana. But we're gonna check it out, and we'll come back and do a little refresher for
Demonstration,
everybody.
yeah.
Demonstration.
Sure, we could do
That's going to
demonstration
save me
maybe
so
next
much
week.
time. Usually I just have to play Grand Theft Auto and see how I'm at.
After you're done from your comedy
Yeah.
club. It's a little Grand Theft Auto.
If I can't get through beating 3 pedestrians to death on the side of that, then I know I'm not sober enough to drive.
That sounds like an interesting thing, though. I can hardly wait to check it out.
Yeah.
I love all the ancillary
Things that pop
new
up from
things
our
that are
industry,
popping up.
right?
There's-
Imagine it was legalized and we were just allowed to flourish.
It's going to be
We would-
amazing.
yeah.
As
It is
and
gonna be amazing.
there's no need to imagine if it's legalized. We're on that path. It's going to happen. It might even happen in our lifetimes, which would be really wonderful because things are moving so quickly now, and it will be a different world at that point, and where there will be a lot of really ancillary innovations that come up around the cannabis community. I'm looking forward to that.
So am I. Gosh, I hope I get to see it.
We were talking earlier about. I read something about veterinarians now are also using medical cannabis for their pets. And at first I thought, oh my God, I've had pets all my life. I've smoked marijuana most of my life. And I always thought it was kind of cruel to take my animal and blow a little smoke in their ear or something like that. I always wanted to do it, but personally I always thought it was a little cruel because they don't have the choice. They're not saying, hey,
Yeah.
get me high.
They'll come over.
They'll come over, and it hasn't
Yeah.
ever hurt any animals that I know of. But now vets are saying that it really can help, again, quality of life. And in the situations that I've been reading about, the pet is basically 15-year-old pet. It's got everything's failing. Kidneys are failing. This is going on. They're living a pretty miserable life. They're getting shot up. They're not eating. They have no appetite. They're hanging their heads. What marijuana does is, again, a quality of life. It allows those pets in the last months or year of their life to live in equality with their owner in a way that they were not with regular medicines, and it just improves the quality of their passing, let's say, and maybe not their life, but their
life.
passing.
I have a friend that has a Springer Spaniel, and Springer Spaniels have hip disease. It's just something that's inbred in them, and it's supposedly very painful. 15-year, 16-year mark. And I have a friend that has a Springer Spaniel, and she feeds him edibles. She, blows smoke in his, on his nose when she feels like he looks like he's having a lot of pain moving around, and he relaxes. And she says that she can tell that he feels better and he relaxes. He's 16 years old. He's
Right.
gonna die soon.
Right.
She says, I have to do something to help him, and this helps him. So there's nothing gonna stop me from doing it. It works on me. It works on him. It's all good, And I think that
It's a
that's-
plant.
yeah,
It works.
is.
So I wondered then, do dogs have cannabis receptors? Because
Cannabinoid receptors. It's when we get the right to do some research on this, I'm sure
we need
we'll
to get a
find that out.
veterinarian into the movement to do some research.
So this guy in the article says that pot eased his Siberian husky's pain during her final weeks after she had surgery to remove tumors. Not only did Nikita stop whimpering while using cannabis, but she started eating, gaining weight, and meeting him at the door. So for the 4 to 8 weeks, for the 3 months that maybe this dog lived, instead of coming home every day and seeing his dog in misery and pain, and the dog being in misery and pain, they had a normal end to the relationship. It's not like people aren't going to die and dogs aren't going to die and cats aren't going to die. We all are. But can't we ease and be compassionate to humans and now also animals? I think, why not?
And it's sad, I
Given
think,
the
that
choice.
people sometimes only use cannabis towards the end of their life, and then they realize, oh my gosh,
my
my
God.
whole life.
I've been lied to my whole
and I fought
life.
against this
I
my
think
whole
we'll
life. and
we'll
kept
see
people
less and
from
less of that
using
as
it.
generations change and the thinking changes on this, and I sure hope so.
It's stupid to deny our pets any sort of relief from their pain just because of our own issues.
But if you're just trying to get your pet high,
Hey,
I have a problem.
Look, hey, let me just say that I know my cat likes it when I blow smoke in his face because later on there'll be catnip on my pillow.
Do not send videos of your pets high to this radio station.
Well, there's another way of administering cannabis to your pets, and that's full disclosure, I represent a company called externalrub.com, and they make a spray, which is an analgesic spray. It's cannabis extract plus other things that are all natural. You spray it on, rub it in 1 minute, most pain will disappear, like arthritis and that sort of thing. Well, it comes from a formula that was originally made for horses.
Oh, interesting.
And they revived it because I guess somebody knew about it. The neighbor had a lame horse. He said, "What? Can we make that stuff up for my horse?" And they made it. And then the next neighbor came in and said, "Well, my son just got back from Afghanistan and he can't walk," and they used it on him. And so they have Lame Away, and they also have canine relief.
And they're both marketed toward pets.
For pets.
For pets.
Oh, yes.
Oh, it's amazing. That's
Canine
great.
relief for dogs and Lame Away for horses, and it's the same base extract that they use for people now.
That's
Progress.
curious,
Externalrub.com. Google
Wow.
Everybody.
What's the
it. Externalrub.com.
externalrub.com?
That sounds dirty.
It works.
You gotta wash it off ultimately.
It works really
Don't
good.
misspell
In
that.
fact, give me some of that stuff.
On that note, they also make a product called Fat Face. Fat Face.
Fat face?
Fat Face.
PHAT?
No, FAT.
Okay.
It's
What does
for
it do?
mixed martial artists. Apparently, when you get bashed in the face over and over again, you get bruised and swollen and cuts and capillaries broken, and they call that fat face. Well, this is a non-petroleum jelly with the same cannabis
Awesome.
extract. You put it on your face or any kind of
And it
bruise,
swells it.
swelling, rash, cut.
Wow.
That is fantastic. I usually get
Wow.
fat face just when I eat pizza.
Yeah.
We are at the end of our Talking Marijuana time with our guests, Candace Hawes and Catherine Johnson. Thank you
for
so
coming on,
much.
ladies.
Cynthia.
Cynthia Johnson.
Cynthia Johnson. Candace Hawes.
Cynthia
You created an AKA
Johnson.
for her now.
Thank you.
We're almost through. I'll be able to medicate and things will be much clearer.
Choose
to me.
Cannabis Cynthia.
Yeah. He put some external rub on his
So
brain.
thank you all very much for joining us on this episode. We'll see you
Pura
next
vida.
week. Pura vida.
Pura vida.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FY. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi, everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.